What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League Lower Finals. We're coming at you with the double play-by-play cast. Once again, it worked well last week on Risen Champs, so we're bringing it to Risen Divine here for our penultimate series of the split. It is going to be the Death Cards taking on the Travelers in a rematch from round number 1, the start of playoffs. Death Cards looking to change their fate from the 0-2 they suffered up against the Travelers just a few weeks ago on this very stream. Slayer, you're joining me once again, man. How are you feeling about tonight's series?
I guess are we supposed to every lower finals in Risen Champs and Divine we have to cast it? Is that the rule now? I mean,
That's the rule for this split. I mean, we're
uh,
2 total streams, and we've got them 100%.
yeah. So we're going the gauntlet again, a five round sprint here. And I know last time the joke was that me and you have casted an abhorrent amount of games going into that. And at least I casted 4 games last night, so we'll see how my voice holds up here. But no, this is certainly an interesting scenario because when you look at, just the seeding, like what if you just turn on the stream now and you see the seeds down below, like it's like, oh, Death Cards top seed, Travelers they're like a 4 seed. They had to play into this playoffs, but those seeds are very very misleading from what we've seen in these playoffs so far. Just out the gate, this is a much tighter contest than what the face value shows.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's been, I mean, it was an incredibly tight regular season. The Death Cards going 6-1 in the regular season. Every other playoffs competitor going 5-2 in a little bit of a little circle coming around for each team beating each other team, or I guess it's a triangle when it's 3 teams, but Death Cards have their name in there as well. Travelers, though, have had the Death Cards number all season long, 2-0ing them in the regular season, 2-0ing them in the upper bracket of the playoffs as well. And now in a best of 5 here, Death Cards are going to have to find a way to turn it around if they want to, first of all, go more than 3 games here tonight. They've yet to beat the Travelers this season, and then they're going to have to, actually take the majority of the games here tonight if they want to move out of those finals and they want to go and face off against ISU Masters, a team that they've actually done much better against, but has already secured themselves a spot in the Grand Finals best of 5.
Yeah, so the one fleeting hope here is that, all right, we haven't played them in a best of 5 yet. Maybe if we can stall out, not immediately get punched in the mouth, you could realistically wager that the Death Cards as a squad could hold on and maybe have a lot more grit towards them, hold up in those, potential Game 4, Game 5s. And, I know the storyline with Divine has been a lot of these teams are squads that were, they kind of promoted themselves, right? This Death Card squad, SDC, they have championships in Dominate from a couple of splits ago. I don't know if it was the prior split to Summer, but I have seen them take titles in Dominate. And a lot of those, and the one I can remember very well being on the desk for, they went all 5 games and they came out in top in the 5th. So as an organization or a team, whatever they're under their head or this banner, they have shown that they can go the gauntlet. And this is the first time in Divine that they will be tested with a best of 5.
Completely agree there and excited to see how they're going to be able to do on that best of 5. Let's check out the predictions from ourselves and our fellow casters coming into the night. We do have the full squad of 6 here all weighing in, and we've got a little bit of some split predictions. Go Farino doesn't know how many games are in the series, but across the rest of the board, we can say that that's a 3-1. I think that's most likely going to be the case here.
Yeah.
We see a lot of 3-1s across the board, and somehow Dobby and Spooky coming out
What
agreeing
is
tonight.
What's going on? Is this the opposite day going on here? Because I swear, like every week, I would see predictions and it'd be like, "Oh, Spooky." No matter how egregious it sounds logistically, he would disagree with Dobby. So I'm a little terrified now, to be honest with you, Gordo, because those two agreeing is like if me and you completely disagreed on a pick. That's like night and
Yeah,
day
no,
how
it
it
never
goes.
happens.
It never happens. And
It
I'm
really
gonna say the bit again. I did not pick 3-1 Travelers knowing Gordo's prediction. You can call me a liar all you want. I know the truth, and I promise I I made my own decision on that 3-1.
It happens. It happens. And you know what? I think I'm surprised we see so many Death Cards predictions, right? Because,
Yeah.
yeah, they're the first seed coming into playoffs, but we talked about how tight that race was. We also talked about how their record up against Travelers has not been fantastic so far this season. They're 0-4 in this particular matchup. Starting off on the red side now, let's see what they're going to be able to do. Travelers are the ones who have side selection as they're coming in from the upper bracket. So they are the ones who opt to go blue to start things off, and they're going to lead us off with an Orianna ban. See how they're going to look to navigate this draft. The mid lane matchup between Shredman and Burger King, that's one that I'm going to really be focusing on. Both of these guys, high priority on the Jace. Burger King in particular, really valuing those AD mid laners to open up for Lil Fizzy to be on the Gwen and Stro to be on the Maokai and stuff like that. I think has really been a center point of their team and of their drafts. Let's see how they're going to be able to navigate coming up against SDC once again.
Yeah, Maokai Jace is as clear-cut as you want to go in the current meta if you're trying to play poke disengage, in my mind. Really good duo to go for. You could potentially have that on the turn here if you really want to slam that Jace early. And I wouldn't hate it. There's a lot of strategies. Obviously, there's also a lot of, turn picks that are kind of been nerfed. I know in Champs we did see the success of Senna Tahm Kench, but that bottom lane that you can pick on R1, R2 is technically nerfed on the current patch we're on, so that doesn't have as much high priority in my mind. Obviously, the teams have a different outlook. We do land on this B1 pick here. There are a lot of priority targets still up. A lot of them in the jungle. This is where you see a lot of J4s get slammed, your Maokais if they're up. Both of them are available for the Travelers. And right on cue, why not? I mean, arguably the strongest jungler right now on the patch, just with so much onus on the game, every facet of it. J4, it's a slam dunk B1 pick in my mind.
It absolutely is, and what really surprises me is seeing the blue side K'Sante ban. I still think that pick's absolutely busted. We talked about it all night long on Champs last night, and I still hold that opinion, even though it managed to lose a couple of games here and there. Still, it went 2-2 last night. It's not even like it did poorly, and I think needs to really be a center point of any cognizant draft plan coming in on the patch. The nerfs on this latest patch are nothing, right? The Q cast time reduction, you need 1600 health instead of 1200 health now. Something that you probably didn't even know that mechanic was in the game. Like half the K'Sante players probably didn't either. It does not make a very big difference. This champ is still crazy, but is going to be off the board this time around. The Poppy and the Xayah going to be the rotation for the death cards, and an early Tristana pick for the Travelers. Now, this makes me think that they wanted in mid lane Slayer. It's very possible that it goes towards Barco Duck in the bottom lane, but Burger King wants to be on these AD mids. He's paired on up with the Jarvan, and this opens up for Fizzy to go for something like his, well, not his Gwen. His Gwen is going to be banned away. But the question is, does he want the Kennen? Does he want, no, the Renekton locked on in? So now you really got to wonder, could the Tristana be going bot lane, or could they be looking for some sort of magic damage bot lane?
Yeah, I wouldn't hate sending Tristana bottom because we know how Xayah plays. She's been in the meta for so long. One good strategy to beat Xayah besides outranging her with a late game scaler is kind of just brunting her early on in the game. And Tristana, once you get level 2 on Tristana, if you pick an engage-oriented support, you can just go at the Xayah early. My issue with the last 2 picks here from Travelers is the death cards left up Rakan while slamming Xayah. That kind of, in the meta right now, leaves you the ability to just pick up the Rakan yourself, because Rakan, in my mind, is a lot more self-sufficient than a Xayah is. But they leave it up, and the death card's got to be loving that they just immediately get to pick up that Rakan on the turn for free, pair Xayah and Rakan together. And I am also kind of intrigued to see that it wasn't a Kennen, or I would have really loved a Rumble alongside the J4. You have the Equalizer with the Cataclysm, you had Rumble up, you don't go for it. Renekton's a good pick, but I think less synergizes with what you're trying to portray with that B1 on the J4.
Agree. Lil Fizzy has not been a big Rumble player throughout the season, but it's a big pick right now, and it's got to be on your short list of AP top laners. I need a Ziggs ban from the death cards right here, right now. I mean, this is a great Ziggs angle. If you're going to take the Tristana into mid, you need magic damage coming from somewhere. It's very long range. It's very safe in the bot lane. You've already banned away the Renata, which is your primary Rakan counter. I need a Ziggs ban right now, death cards, if you guys are going to really try to be competitive in this bottom lane in any meaningful way up against the Xayah Rakan. Otherwise, I fully expect to see it locked in for Barco Duck, but it is going to be a Xerath ban instead. That has been a pocket pick that Burger King has been pulling out there, so they clearly expect that it's going to be a Tristana in the bottom lane.
All right, well, let's see. I mean, you could also just take the Ziggs mid. It's not like you box yourself into playing it bot if you're going to slam the Tristana mid. So you've got a lot of options up there. And for Travelers, it looks like they believe that the Poppy will actually be going top here with their Maokai ban coming down, or at least covering that base. I like it, because if Maokai slips through all phases of bans, it's a really good pick to get late. And so they get that ban out of the way. Then Neeko is going to be the blind, or potentially not the blind, the answer to Tristana. All that really unfolds here with these next two picks to kind of tell us what we're going with. I would love the Ziggs, like you mentioned. Yeah. You can just go with it in either lane. You know, it doesn't really matter where you're going. It's not like Ziggs has a weak matchup right now. You know, Rakan, yeah, can be a little tough, but Ziggs is a really safe pick bottom side, and Ziggs will just outrange Neeko. And the Syndra's going to be locked in, so it is the Tristana bot.
All right, yeah, I mean, I think this is an easy Ziggs Rel angle. It gives you the Ziggs Tristana duo to ram through turrets really quickly. Matches up on theme with Renekton, who's going to be looking for Prio early on. I cannot believe that this didn't end up transpiring, but the coaches pick what they pick. They think what they think about what gives them the best chances of winning. So they are going to be going for this Syndra in the mid lane, taking the Tristana towards bot. I do like the Karma. I think it's underrated in support. I think we're drifting back over towards a ranged bot laner meta. And I think this is one of those selections that can really bring the pain up against Xayah and Rakan early on. Look for that extra poke, get some really powerful all-in angles once Jarvan does come down to pay a visit. But now the Death Cards, they need something to back on up this Neeko. They need some setup to make sure that Pop Blossom is going to be successful. The Jarvan is off the table. What will they end up going for? Sejuani is available. They could go for something more carry-oriented, or they can move the Poppy into jungle, take themselves an Ornn, and that's going to be some great setup for them with the Call of the Forge God coming in the top lane for Starry.
I also don't hate it being the Poppy of the jungle, because you can, you know, you give yourself kind of an advantage, at least if you line up your interrupts on Poppy early. If you run into a J4, you can win those 1v1s battling for a scuttle if you guys mirror your paths, or you run into each other on an invade. Poppy, you know, can interrupt the flag and drag. You can throw them into a wall. You can interrupt a lot of those dashes. So if you want to be aggressive on this Poppy, you can get in the face of this J4 early on. I don't hate it that way either, because that's Poppy. That's the real main sort of disruptor you're looking to have an effect on. Yeah, sure, Renekton maybe slice and dice is one, Tristana hopping later on, but most of the time, this Poppy is going to consistently be trying to interrupt these J4 flag and drags to set up cataclysms, or just, you know, stun him in his own cataclysms. So that's kind of the reason you pick the Poppy in my mind. I like moving it over to the jungle. And then back to your point about Karma, my favorite, and range support's kind of getting back into the meta right now. My favorite types of range supports are the ones that have multifaceted effects as a game goes on, right? Karma early game is all about the big time poke you have in the lane with the mantra Qs. You get a lot of damage, you get a lot of pressure. But then later in the game, Karma changes, and she's all about those giant shields and speed ups with your mantra and power, right? So range supports that can do two things as a game goes on are really powerful, and I agree with you. That's why I think Karma should be one of those mainstays if we get those range supports coming back into the meta.
Absolutely. Here, do want to take a second to shout out predictions. They are live right now. You can bid your Travi bucks on who you think is going to end up taking game number 1. About 3 minutes left to do that. There are nearly 100,000 Travi bucks in the pool right now. I have never seen the chat this active and this willing to dump the house on a potential game 1 in a best of 5 series. So props to you guys tuning in at home. These are some crazy numbers, and definitely get involved to see if you can win yourself a chunk of change out of what's already in there. So we're getting into the in-client draft here, Slayer, and I see Starry having locked in the Renata. All right, we're resetting this. We've griefed it a tiny bit. We're gonna get that reorganized and reset.
All right, well, that's certainly oh, okay. Well, it's
yep, we are now in a 4v5. We're definitely not doing that either.
Okay, yeah, all right. So this is the usual shenanigans going on here. Yeah, but it does give us kind of a chance to look at these, you know, comps holistically. You definitely get the feeling that both these teams are kind of buying into their team fight a lot. What's interesting is going to be how the mid laners, I know you mentioned you're going to be watching the mid lanes, especially in this game. I think it's interesting to track, because in a lot of ways, a lot of these lanes are kind of mirroring each other. You know, the bottom lanes, you've got a lot go. Actually, I was thinking about it as a Tristana mid. The AD carries are the ones that I find are going to be interesting, because Tristana, yeah, sure, she scales up well. She gets her range bonus, obviously. But Right now with Tristana, the reason she goes mid is because you're picking her to be aggro early and kind of get to a early advantage. Xayah is obviously always about playing back in team fights, you know, scaling up later to be that monster. So I'm curious if we're going to see Zeranos be aggressive on this Tristana early to try and get those advantages. You see Tristanas go for a mid lane. And what is the answer here from Xayah? I expect a lot of bot lane pressure from both of these squads. Kind of something that I feel like they've leaned on a lot this season.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's been really focused around the bot lane for them thus far. And the Travelers, you know, I've been really impressed with their new bot lane, right? Because we're deep into playoffs now. It's only been 4 teams in playoffs. It's only been a couple of weeks, but they've been playing together long enough that folks may forget. Barco, Duck, and Aquanico coming into this team a little bit later on in the season. They did play most of their early phase without these two with a different bot lane, and we got to talk to, it was a little Fizzy after the last match. I think I was here with Davi. We talked to Fizzy a little bit. He talked about the new vibe that this new bot lane brings to the team and how they feel like they are such a stronger roster since bringing them on in. Now, since that conversation, they have lost the winner's side final. So maybe had to go back to the drawing board a little bit, had realized that, hey, just making this change isn't going to be enough to allow us to slam Risen Divine. They are going to have to evolve a little bit more, learn from that loss. It was a close 2-1 series. Now this is going to be the next step of their evolution as they look to take another series win over the Death Cards. Death Cards, of course, have been struggling against Travelers all season long, like we've said. They are going to need to find some kind of new answer here. It looks like this time around it's going to be a very traditional team fight composition, and I gotta be honest, that's pretty different than what we saw from them in that upper bracket matchup. It was the Sett and the Renekton for Starry trying to win through top lane, and it was a lot of different kind of safer bot lanes for them. They played an Ezreal Braum game and a Ziggs Rakan game in that matchup. Now they're going for the Xayah Rakan. Now they're prioritizing Zeranos and Pierce Blade. Let's see how that's going to end up working for them coming on into our first game of tonight's series.
And Gordo, as you know, I like to lean on my traditional sports analogies sometimes. Last year, when it came to, you know, my Eagles, they ended up running into a team they played twice in the regular season in the playoffs. And a lot of the conversation around that matchup was, well, you can't beat a team three times in one season, right? Obviously, those were just one singular games. Like that's how the NFL, you know, football works if you're not familiar. But I mean, I think the logic still holds true. It is insanely difficult, I think, already to beat a team twice you play in a year. And I think it's more difficult to beat a team you play twice in the playoffs. So, if anything, yes, the Death Guards don't have a great track record, but is there any team that knows Travelers better than the Death Guards by this point? I don't think so, and it should make for a series that is going to be intriguing, like you mentioned, because there's already been tone shifts from the draft from the Death Guards.
Yeah, I don't know. I just hear that, Slayer, as a Bears fan. I'm just thinking, well, you can't lose to a team 3 times in a year if you never make the playoffs. So,
well, also, fun fact, that team did lose to the Eagles 3 times in 1 year. They did lose. So
yeah, it's been done. It happens. It happens from time to time. As now and then, we will have to see. But we are coming on in to checking out some masteries, some runes, as they are now called for you new kids on the block, as they are going on, selecting on through. I notice immediately no Hex Flash on this Poppy. That's something that we do not frequently see. Instead, going for the Yellow Tree secondary, getting themselves that Triumph, getting themselves a little bit of extra tenacity. I believe that's Legend Tenacity at the very least, and going to be looking to build themselves up without that access to that tool.
Want some extra oomph when they get low HP and they pick up some of those kills. Interesting to see. Phase Rush, though, obviously you like that on Poppy a lot. This is the one that I'm interested to see because there's a lot Syndra can go right now. And it looks like the Syndra will be opting for First Strike. So some extra punch on her all-out combos for Mr. Burger King. And obviously some, you know, pick up some gold early in the lane. I like it. If you're a very good Syndra, you can really outrange and zone off a lot of your mid lane counterparts. Like almost all of them in my mind. We saw that last night from Messages when he played Syndra. He just bullied the Victor like constantly to get a lead on his splinters. I am worried about not running Phase Rush up against a Poppy, and a Rakan potentially. So we'll see how that plays out. There's not really a wrong option. That's what I want to say. There's a lot of options. They're not necessarily any of them wrong. And bottom lane, The only thing that's interesting, obviously Lethal Tempo, you're seeing on Xayah every time. The Tristana opting for Lethal Tempo. Sometimes you see Hail of Blades. It is a more mid-laner Keystone focus, but you can still bring it to the bottom lane. Kind of signals that maybe this Tristana does want to try and scale up alongside the Xayah.
Yeah, that's very possible here. I do also notice it is going to be the exhaust for the Xayah, so definitely looking to give themselves a little bit of play if that Tristana does dip in for the all-in, trying to detonate that explosive charge and make sure that they're going to be going in for the solo kill. The exhaust going to dissuade that as best as they can. And then the Zombie Ward for the Rakan that's been getting more and more popular on him lately. They are going to be moving around the map pretty frequently. I think it does signal that they're going to look to move away from Xayah and at least come up towards mid lane, take control of that bottom river as much as they can. It's surprisingly easier to do on the Rakan. Your instinct might be, oh, these two are so strong together, you want to stay in lane as long as you can, but the enhanced dash range on Battle Dance does give you the freedom to really step up a little bit farther in that river, go up, contest for Scuttle Crabs, get vision around the dragon, and you get to return that much faster because of the additional range you bring to the table. So definitely something to be considering here as we wonder where Pierce Blade's going to be moving in the early game, how involved he's going to be trying to pair up with Lexus, especially when they're trying to take control around this bottom side of the map. That is what seems to be the game plan coming into the night for the Death Cards, really heavily pivoting away from what they attempted last time they met the Travelers, and I think that makes a lot of sense. They really struggled the last time they met the Travelers.
That's certainly the key to be watching. And speaking of Keystones, I want to mention the Karma here. Coming out for Aqua Nico, or I believe. You could go the Comet. I like Aerie a lot more because it's multifaceted again. The Aerie, it gives you a little, not as much extra poke early, but it does help you with the shielding later. So it works a lot better later. Comet is when you're saying, all right, I just want to do as much poke damage early and try and bully in the lane. Aerie has been, you see on a lot of champions kind of coming up here with some of the other ones getting nerfed. So I like the Aerie over the Comet here for Aqua Nico's Karma.
Definitely makes a lot of sense here. As I do hear some Summoner's Rift sounds in the background. I believe that means we are ready to get onto the Rift. Game number 1 of the Travelers taking on the Death Cards in an elimination match for a spot in the finals. Loser will dip out in 3rd place, take home a bronze medal, and be done for the season. Let's get into it, Slayer.
We are onto the Rift, and nothing cheeky so far. Just going with the fan starts. These two teams, like all your division rivals in sports, your Yankees and Red Sox, your Cowboys and Eagles, know each other far too well by this point. Played multiple games, multiple series against each other. And that really tests your champ pool, your stylistic choices so much. And I'm intrigued to see not only how it plays out in game number 1, but how it evolves over the gauntlet that is a best of 5.
Absolutely here. Starting things on off. Going to be that early invade from SDC. Make sure that they're going to have vision of the blue buff. They're going to probably catch the Stro on that vision when he moves on up after starting on the Wolves. And they have full vision for Travelers of Lexus starting off on the Birds. So both jugglers going to be spotted. Should put a damper on any early game shenanigans. And should mean that these lanes have the opportunity to play up against each other, at least on the bottom side, in a full-on 2-on-2. Great dodge by Nico there on that grand entrance.
Yep. Guardian getting some work, though, from Pierce Blade, going that instead of the Glacial Augment, so he eats that Q and doesn't take anything off of his health bar. But this is what you want to do as Karma early, especially when you got that dash down for the time being. Just bully them off the wave. Get your Tristana level 2, because that is one of the strongest points for Tristana when it comes to lane. That level 2 able to just all in and bully. And Aqua Nico laying down the damage as well. So Travelers off to a good start. Bot side, top side, you expect this shove in from Lil Fizzy up against the Norn.
Indeed you do. And then manifesting that shove in the bottom lane are Barco, Duck, and Aqua Nico. Benefit of having that ranged Karma with the AoE on the Q. The AoE naturally being present there from the Tristana as well if she starts off that explosive shot. So they get the early shove. They're the first ones to match up to level 2. They're going to get some good damage onto Pierce Blade for it, but it looks like he has largely been able to regen that back, chugging away at one of his potions.
Chugging on away. Something you also track for. You've got those... The only champion on Summoner's Rift this time, I know everyone is like, why do so many champions have scaling options in their kits nowadays? So many getting reworked. We only have one in this game. and it will be Burger King's Syndra. So always got to check in on those splinters. Reminder for people who aren't too familiar with Syndra, another way to get your splinters besides leveling up champion damage is securing those cannons. So obviously everyone likes to meme missing cannons because it's a lot of gold, but it's twofold for a Syndra to make sure to get those extra splinters to get to those upgraded abilities.
Absolutely here. Lexus starting off on that blue buff, moving on down towards the bottom side, and nice trade from Shredman there. Looks like he got that Tangle Barbs into Blooming Burst combo. Was able to chunk out Burger King a little bit. Able to keep control over that wave. Not too eventful of an early lane, the Syndra into Nico. They're going to be probably just chilling out and farming for most of the foreseeable future, unless they manage to land their respective CC combos, get a nice chunk on off, but just waiting for jungle support for the most part. A lot of vision committed towards the top side for Travelers here. They really want to make sure that they can keep Lil Fizzy protected in this one-on-one matchup up against Starry. And we'll see how the CS numbers look once Starry clears out this wave, but so far Fizzy's been able to build himself up a nice little advantage.
And that's kind of par for the course playing Ornn. Remember playing Ornn. Also, we talked about Starry. You talked about he likes to play those aggressive champions. Now on the Ornn, the name of the game really is just stay consistent in CS. You are going to take some losses. You might take a plate loss as well. Don't give away kills up against this Renekton, and you've done your job because your important part of the game is not in lane. You don't shine at that point. Also, you talked about all that great vision topside. It's twofold because you can now track Lexus and try and set up for first Drake. You can see it's about to spawn here. The Stro already clearing out his bot side, and with the bot pressure, pretty good angle to likely just lock down this first Drake for free.
For sure here is pushing on in is Shredman. Going to look to get himself a little bit of a recall on off. Burger King, of course, still yet to take that recall, has access to the teleport, as does Shredman, so very likely going to be maintaining just that even matchup as much as they can. TP back from Shredman. Little bit of an advantage for Burger King here if he's able to get himself a nice little trade. And Fizzy continues to proxy up on this top side. He's lost some of his vision, but they seem to have a pretty good idea of where Lexus is. And Stro actually arriving to mid to make sure that they can shove in this wave. Just trying to make things as comfortable for Burger King as he possibly can. It's actually Barco Duck and Aquanico building up an advantage to the bottom lane just in the 2-on-2. Not think the death cards would have drawn it up that way, and it definitely means that they're just kind of struggling across the board here, looking for Lexus to try to get the ball rolling, turn one lane back into their favor.
Yeah, I like this from Stro. Not getting too aggressive trying to make ganks with his two winning lanes. He's just going to support the one lane that needs a little bit of an oomph. He doesn't need to be a gank. Just catch the waves, make sure those are in a good spot for Burger King to teleport back in. So they don't go for the dragon, but he just makes sure the farm is still close for his mid laner. But now you've allowed the vision for Lexus and company to set up decently well in this bottom river with the Drake up. Ultimates are starting to come online for those solo lanes, soon to be for these junglers as well. And that just adds an extra sort of oomph to, honestly, both of these junglers in specific. Keeper's Verdict can really turn a fight, obviously eliminating one big threat. And we know how effective a Cataclysm can be as well.
We certainly do here as Stro moving on up here, sees Lexus on that ward, now knows that he's going to be alone in the mid lane. If he tries to pay Shredman a visit, Burger King hovering around, looking for a potential scatter the weak angle. Both supports are here as well, and you can tell both teams emphasizing this mid lane play. Stro hasn't been spotted in a while. Scatter the Weak doesn't connect. Shredman committing the ultimate, gonna force the flash out of Burger King, but Pierce Blade finds him in wait. Aquanico there with the shield, though, gonna be able to get Burger King a pathway out. It looks like he will survive. Lexus diving deeper, trying to get on top of Stro, but Stro's able to just walk that out. Scatter the Weak with the double stun. Flag and drag back in. They're not done yet as they've got Barco Duck, but he just gets blown out of the water, taken down, traded back by Aquanico, but that's first blood for the death cards, and they're not stopping yet. Shredman continuing to move forward, gets the snare on a 2, the interrupt from Lexus, the feather storm from Zeranos, and a double kill over to the death cards.
Oh, that all was just such a blunder from Burger King. You had Aquanico spot out Pierce Blade on the roam in the bottom river, so you know that the Rakan is nearby, And yeah, he whiffs the Scour of the Week to set up Shredman, but that shouldn't, he then pass into the Rakan like he has no idea the Pierce Blade's waiting for him there. He's already, he virtually flashed into Pierce Blade. So you burn the flash, still get knocked up, get burned so low, and now Travelers, they have to expend almost all their resources just trying to save their Syndra. Aqua Nico flashes in, the Stro getting flag and drag knockups just as a saving grace, and you'll get to see it here. He flashes right into Pierce Blade. Your support called out that Pierce Blade was right around that area. So now Aqua Nico flashes in to get the shield. Yeah, you save him, but now you've given all the advantage over to the death cards by this point. Sure, Lexus doesn't get that stun up, but at this point you should be just saying, all right, we're lucky that we didn't give over a kill. But that one Scour of the Week baits them in. Barco Duck flashes way too far forward. Pierce Blade gets another knockup on a person who's virtually flashing into him, and the kill goes over. And by that point, it is all alerts going off for the Travelers. Beautiful for the Death Guards to capture a couple more kills on the back end.
And shocking that Barco Duck didn't have the jump there as the engage is found to the bottom side by Stro. He's going to flash back away. Not going to quite be able to find the damage. Zorno's taken very low. Lexus maybe up a little bit far here. Slowed down once again. Pierce Blade going to try to give him the backup and going to get his flash forced by the Karma W.
Oh.
Redman, though, coming to try to interrupt this.
It's another great cancel from Pierce Blade. On point with this Rakan. Every knockup we've seen from him so far has been either really good at finding a pick or saving his teammates so far. And that's Cataclysm down. And sure, you got a lot of pressure. You force out, I believe, a Summoner, but you're so low that you can't capitalize on it and take that first Drake. So in reality, all it's really going to cost the Death Cards is Zeranos is going to miss some CS on the shove. But why would you care that much? Yeah, you're down a lot of CS, but you're also 2-0 on the Xayah now. Very, very far accelerated ahead of schedule.
Absolutely here. Now, you got to look towards top lane if you're the Travelers. Lil Fizzy been very well set up in this isolated lane. We'll commit the Dominus there in response to the call the Forge got out of Starry and probably just take himself a recall. He should have time to even walk back here. He can kind of cheat this one out if he so desires. Has himself a pretty comfortable 20 CS lead. Meanwhile, the Death Cards starting up the first Dragon will be able to secure it for themselves. It is Rift Herald spawning hours, though, so Stro can actually look to start this off. Fizzy still hasn't recalled. Wants to be here to secure that objective. Aqua Nico going pretty low, though. Starry looking for the trade. Gets a big knock up onto Fizzy, who should have to recall and TP back now.
Bottom lane, though, Aqua Nico, yeah, didn't get to the Blast Cone. Pierce Blade interrupts it, and now the Karma is just caught. Shredman will make sure he can't escape anywhere, and that's another beautiful kill. SDC, we talked about how they want to commit to the bot side to change up their strategy, and boy, has it cashed in game number 1.
Yeah, and what great communication coming through from Zornos and Pierce Blade in this early game. They've really been able to get to the plays in time. Pierce Blade especially just knows where he needs to be, knows what plays are going to break out alongside Lexus, and has been able to secure the gold and secure the kills thanks to his presence in these plays. Zornos, the one who's cashing out, gets a big double kill in that earlier play, and now getting a kill on over to Shredman off the back of that last one. Now very well set up for success on the bottom side as they start to stack these dragons.
And yeah, sure, you do end up conceding topside with the Rift Herald. Is Lexus, I mean, actually might be looking to go on to Stro here, who's looking for a flank angle. Flying Drag misses. Pierce Blade does not get the knockup as well. So with no CC, everyone's going to walk away. But, you know, you give away the Rift Herald to the Stro. You give Travelers kind of a bit of pressure topside. But like we talked about, Starry, he's doing a pretty good job on the Ornn. Yeah, he's down a decent amount of CS, but he's not giving a lump sum amount of gold over just yet. Lil Fizzy is going to be a problem, but it could have been so much worse.
Definitely could have been. So that's going to be all of the minions taken on away. He does get his Demolish proc. He gets his extra gold. He rushed Black Cleaver here, Lil Fizzy. So has a fully completed item. Usually you see the Gore Drinker come through first. I guess it feels like he doesn't need that sustain in this matchup and just wanted to hit that item spike when he had the opportunity. See how that pays off for him as this laning phase extends. Meanwhile, Rift Herald getting thrown bot lane. They want to pair this up with their Tristana and take as many plates as they possibly can. They're going to be able to cash out 3 more, it looks like here. Yeah, 1 more auto will do it from Shelly.
That is a hugely impactful Rift Herald pull there from the Stro. Obviously, you could think, all right, you know what, bot lane's a bit sacked. Maybe I want to get this top, get Lil Fizzy a lot more plating. No, I like it. try and even out. You don't need to help Lil Fizzy that much. He has the advantage already. He's gotten himself a bounty without getting a kill or an assist. So try and get the gold back somewhere else. We're trying to get it onto Barco Duck, who we talked about. You know, Tristana can be an early menace, but with the Keystone, he picked the Ghost on this Tristana. They want this Tristana to scale alongside the Xayah, but they also can go in like this. Pierce Blade is as good as dead. The bomb ticking down. The Ignite is good enough. And right when I'm talking about the late game scaling of Tristana, it gets a big time early kill. Topside, Lil Fizzy, how to pop the Dominus. Call of Forge got whiffs. Jukes out the Keeper's Verdict into the Scatter of the Weak. What a play from the solo lanes for Travelers. They knocked down 2 for Burger King.
Huge play by Fizzy there. Maybe not quite as clean as he would have wanted. Definitely was trying to interrupt that Keeper's Verdict, but hey, if it works, it works. And it does work in that scenario. Flashes out, dodges away from the ultimate, keeps Lexus in place, gets a big damage across both targets, and secures a kill for Burger King.
I mean, that just completely threw the game opposite way. Like, if we go post-game and this game doesn't wobble a lot more in that department, it's going to be a huge swing, because not only do you pick up those doubles, you get all that gold on Burger King, but that pick in the bottom lane, you get a kill on a Barco Duck, and they knock down first turret with plates up. So all of a sudden, that gold lead for SDC is now looking nowhere to be found. It's almost 3K over to the Travelers. What a just minute window for the blue side.
Yeah, beautiful last 2 minutes from the Travelers, for sure. They have cemented themselves now firmly in the lead, despite having been at a deficit just a few moments ago. And now rotating their bot lane over towards mid is a great opportunity to do that, to try to open up the map a little bit more now that the plates have fallen. Utilize this Tristana for her pushing power and get yourself into a position where you can use this Renekton in upcoming skirmishes.
You're also getting some big item points here for Burger King and Stro, who has got his Gourd Drinker. I like this itemization from Burger King, though. This is a clearly Liandry's game in my mind. You got a Poppy and an Ornn. Yeah, sure, the Ludens will give you a little bit of extra punch when you're trying to all-out Zeranos or Shredman. You get that extra ump with First Strike already, but Liandry's is going to get a lot more value once these fights turn out the way we're thinking they will, with how fight-oriented both these comps are.
Yeah, Travelers camping this bush, hoping to catch SDC in rotation for Dragon number 2. Lexus, though, sees an angle onto Burger King. Nice stun, going to slow down this play. He goes for the Unleashed Power, and he just deletes the jungler. Now SDC without Lexus, without their playmaker, and Stro collapsing onto Shredman to force the flash.
I mean, that's just a stat check right there. A little too overzealous. Poppy can become tanky, but she's usually more armor-dependent tanky, and you build early for that Divine Summoner, you just have no bite. We can look back at that bot pick play, and you know, it was just beautifully set up with the Death Brush like you talked about. This is the one I'd like to get a look at again. Yeah, you mentioned it wasn't as clean as possible. I thought this Keeper's Verdict was trying to hit, it was trying to get Burger King out, and it was just a little too early. Man, that would have been a lot different of a fight if that connects onto Burger King, because that was all the damage that was brought over once the teleport went through.
Indeed it was. Meanwhile, while we were in that replay, Travelers secured themselves the Mountain Drake. It has rolled Hextech Soul. See those gates appearing on the map. A very powerful one, but pretty far away from either team being able to secure it. First Dragon went down pretty late, and it is 1-1. So I would even go so far as to say unlikely we see a Soul in this game, unless it gets dragged out quite a bit longer. But Travelers very, very firmly in the lead here. 3K gold lead here pre-20 minutes. Likely going to be trying to use that to move themselves up towards this second Herald. And I want to give a shout out to Fizzy here. He has been so conservative with his use of the teleport, still holding on to it. I don't even know if he's used it yet this game. Certainly hasn't used it since it's become unleashed. And that unlocks him now to go towards the bottom side while his bot goes to top. And they're going to be able to 5-man for this Herald, but the collapse on a Burger King.
It's too easy. Way too easy. I mean, this is just a game of death brushes right now. The Vision doing a lot of work, but with a Poppy, a Nico, and a Rakan with the Featherstorm root pullback on the Feathers, you get one of those to line up. On a squishy member, they have no chance to flash at all. Even if it was up, stopwatch, it won't matter. Good pick there. You get the shutdown also onto Zeranos, who, despite the woes of the death cards the last 5 minutes, is also still quietly 3-0-1 as we have another death brush, Gordo.
Yeah, I take it back a little bit now, Slayer, as they are camping for Starry. They will get a firm chunk of damage onto him. I think he will walk this out. Stro looking for the dive. Maybe a little bit optimistic. As, yeah, Fizzy teleported back to mid now. They're waiting for Burger King. I mean, they can do the same play again now, this time sending Burger King bot. They don't even really need to send anybody bot, as the wave's already pushed on up. And nobody has started up the Rift Herald in the meantime, so they're just going to walk right back up and do the same play they were planning on doing anyway.
I wouldn't have hated with the way the wave is going, maybe aggressively teleporting up there. Now it doesn't look as good because I do see Shredman had teleport, and he will back and answer it. He has teleport if they want a Rift Herald fight here, but you've got somewhat of an interrupt window. There's a teleport. They might have caught onto Burger King once again. What an angle for Lexus. No shot in the world for Burger King as he falls early once more. And that's just going to give the Rift Herald right over to the Death Cards. One pick cashes in so much.
And once again, Burger King finds himself caught out and taken down, trying to do the Jarvan and Renekton's job. Even the Karma should be the one scouting on up there, stepping up into the enemy team's jungle, does not have the backup, gets caught out by Lexus. And SDC will secure themselves Rift Herald number 2 and bring the gold lead down to 2K.
It's really a game of, right now, pick plays set up by vision and mistakes. Travelers did such a good job with those picks we saw top and bot early on, but now Burger King, 2 straight deaths in about 2 minutes, just flat out getting picked. One of them really mispositioned. And those little mental mistakes mean so much as the series goes on. We're just in game number 1, where they don't have as much impact on the series. We'll have to see how those transcribe going forward.
We will have to see that. So now, moving towards the bottom side, it's a minute to go until Dragon at number 3 spawns up, and Travelers are here in droves. Honestly, a little bit early. Burger King with his summoners back up, holding down the fort in the top lane. They're going to assign Fizzy down into that bottom river, bottom lane area, and just try to keep that push on up. The Karma-Tristana duo, the strongest push available on the map, is going to just keep this wave pushed into SDC's face and try to minimize their playmaking opportunities in their own jungle.
And now we got both these AD carries hitting their 2 item power spikes, both of them going to Vori. That makes sense, especially for Tristana, who we talked about wants to go for the scaling route with the crit build. So those 2 guys are the most online of anybody right now on the Rift. They're going to have to be a big focal point to watch for because it feels like we're gearing up for some sort of fight. You mentioned it. First Mountain Soul spawning in just 10 seconds. You have Baron on the other side of the map as well. And right now, a lot of the push in the side lanes for the Travelers. So what is the answer for the Death Cards? They're going to try and just ram it down mid with that Rift Herald.
Yeah, they should be able to pick up this mid turret off the charge. It will go on down, and it gives the Death Cards a little bit of space to play with. They're immediately starting to rotate on over for the Dragon. Fizzy actually taking a recall here. He does not have access to the teleport. Be able to get back with the Hex Gates, but this is looking like a give angle for the Travelers. SDC will move up to Dragon number 2. The Travelers not really able to manifest themselves a defense here. They're trying to push in mid. They're going in onto Starry, but he's tanky enough to be able to flash out and stay alive. Only a half now getting the knockup. Burger King's locked down. He's taken down as well. Shredman finds his way on towards Nico. And 2 more kills to the Death Cards.
That's just the target you can't go that hard for, Burger King. Starry is the guy that wants to be getting punched, wants to be taking flag and drags, full Syndra combos outside of the ultimate. And because he can just walk it off, run it off. He has all these tanky items. You step up way too far again for a tank top Ornn, and then you get punished with the engage that this Rakan and Nico and Poppy bring. Lexus might get overextended here and picked off, but no, he's safe too. So it's a 3rd time, it feels like, Gordo, where overextension from the Travelers is costing them.
It definitely is here, and you know, Burger King in particular, you gotta call him out. He's gone down 3 times now by being up too far on this Syndra. More excusable that last time is the call from the team was clearly to try to take down Starry, but Starry's too strong. Starry's got his first Ornn upgrade coming through already. He's got the Jaxio, the Protean, in the tank. He is able to withstand that damage and set up for the rest of the teams. Over the wall comes Lexus. He sees Aqua Nico and gets him to blow the flash.
That's a win over Aquanico because Pierceblade also flashes over the wall to try and get the kill. A little stat check there for the Poppy. Doesn't have enough damage over top. You needed one of Shredman or Zeranos there as well to get the damage. There are your 2 damage dealers in the comp. So at the end of the day, it did look like a good pick, but 2 flashes for 1 is a trade you'll take no matter what the circumstance.
And Starry, with the levels in the tank, starting to roll out the ornaments to the rest of the team. Zeranos going to get those quick blades upgraded for himself. I actually don't think I know the name of that one. The item's too new. I'll have to do my research on that outside of the game. I know that it's like the Unspoken Parasite is the one that Starry's got for himself. Yeah, I know that one. You don't. All right, it's Flicker.
Flicker?
Thank you, Caddy.
How did we land on that as the name?
It's like what's quicker than quick?
Okay, yeah.
Listen, I'm doing my best. They're not. They can't all be winners. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad.
I just don't understand how you go like all the other ones get like longer titles and don't kill me, Burger King's caught again here. Lexus is alone, so this actually might be a return angle. They do have Stroke coming up. Cataclysm is available. Will Fizzy's here as well. Took the Hexscape from behind. Pierceblade gets a massive Charm Grand entrance, but Lexus is already dead. Big Scatter of the Week also catches Zeranos of all people. The 5-0 Saya is down. Shredman gets Buster Stunned out of his Pop Blossom. So many great interrupts right now from Travelers, and they're going to cash in on the kills. Starry all alone. There's a ton of low health bars around him, but he's just a pesky Ornn. No damage in the kit there. 4 kills for Travelers with Baron on the cards.
Lil Fizzy is unkillable on the Croc. Survives for so long in that fight. Pop the Dominus, dives back in, and leads the charge for the ace. Barco Duck gonna go 1 for 1 there, but the team will secure this Baron as long as they juggle the aggro appropriately. Burger King, I know you're not gonna die to the purple worm, my friend, as they will be able to secure it. They will get Baron buff onto 4 members. Unless Lexus does something miraculous here, but he can't get over. Not in time, not without the Hex Flash, not without a Blast Cone. And Baron buff goes to the Travelers.
That was such a great interrupt there from Pierceblade. I don't know if we're going to get a look at that replay, but Lexus is... okay, we will. Okay, so this is once again Lexus being like, oh, I have a pick, and then forgetting he's alone, and he's a Poppy with 1 item, so you can't do enough damage to even kill Burger King. But here's where it gets a little dicey, because Lexus, yeah, gets the Cataclysm, but look at Pierceblade. Gets everybody charmed up or knocked up. All these low health bars, but Zeranos gets Scatter the Weak stunned up, trying to get something. He had Exhaust, Featherstorm, and Flash Up, Gordo. All the tools. It didn't matter. 1 stun lands. Goodbye to the Zion. You mentioned it. Lil Fizzy is dealing with just Pierceblade and Starry. Sure, he gets poked down low, but they don't have the umph to kill him off. And the Dominus doing so much work. You lose Zeranos. Shredman can't get a Pop Blossom. You are not winning a fight as the Death Cards.
Great play around the top side there. They may have moved away from focusing top side from the Death Cards, but the Travelers bring it back up there. A huge dragon fight for Fizzy and the squad. And now they are firmly in the driver's seat coming into this 4th dragon spawn. They should be able to secure this one for themselves. The Death Cards, though, looking like they want to keep their focus around this objective. They've got 5 members on this side of the map. If you do not already have somebody pushing top lane, you should be contesting this dragon.
Well, just going to give it. Nobody can really get up there. They're sending, of all people, Pierceblade up to get the wave.
That's Shredman. He's fooling you.
Oh, he fooled me. He got me. He got me. Shucks. Okay, so you do get Shredman up there. But, I mean, that's
the same thing for a minute, and then I was like, all right, there's 2 Pierceblades. I got it.
It's not a league cast if you don't get Nico'd at least once, to be honest with you. Even we are susceptible to getting Nico'd.
Oh, yeah.
That's a drink. Yeah, but that's a drink you want to give, though, Gordo. I mean, it's 2-2. It's at 27 minutes. Like, don't fight over that Drake. If it was Soul Point, yeah, it's a whole different conversation for a Hextech Soul, but... You mentioned it. We're likely not going to see the Soul, especially now that it's at 2 apiece at 27 minutes. The game just won't go that long. So, no reason to fight on that. Just shove out waves and try and survive this Baron push so far, which I'm pretty sure Travelers actually haven't gotten a ton out of yet. I don't know if they've knocked down a turret with it.
No, not too much. I mean, it's got some internal gold value. right? In the form of that 300 gold apiece you get when it goes down, but yeah, only really going to be able to utilize it to pick up Dragon number 2, and I suppose denying Soul Point, that's not nothing, but it will be dropping off here in just a couple of seconds. There it goes. No structures going to drop to that Baron buff, and more importantly, I think that Baron not going to be able to take down the mid-outer turret. Travelers would certainly like to have that one off the map, would make it way easier for folks like Fizzy to be pushing on up here in the top lane. There's an inherent risk there, and you can see he doesn't really want to go much past the Krug camp because he doesn't know who's moving on down.
Exactly. You have to worry about those rotations. Luckily, if you are Travelers, you do have 3-item now Tristana, who if you can get up to the turret without too much threat, we'll just delete it. Barco Duck is being litmus testy right now. Nearly gets knocked down by the Grand Entrance. Lexus is here now, also looking for an angle. The only way they can win these fights is set up Zeranos to do massive damage and find a pick with this Rakan and this Neeko, something STC haven't done so far. And Lexus, you do not win that battle against a level 17 Renekton.
Yeah, no, Black Cleaver doing a little bit of work there up against the Poppy. They get the break in the armor. With that Deicide taking up one of the item slots, not really the tankiest Poppy at either. Shredman getting caught on, out, gonna throw down the Pop Blossom, gets a lot of damage out of Neeko. Stro still frontlining, dives back in with the Cataclysm, but here's Lexus on the flank. Lexus gonna take them on down. Fizzy, though, has arrived to the play and is gonna be able to take out one. Barco Duck coming to join him. The reset's coming on through for the Tristana as Fizzy cleans up a double kill. It's a 3-for-2 for the Travelers.
Yep, that's Renekton for you. It looked decent. You had the window, all the feathers for Zeranos, but it really does not matter when a Dominus level 17, now 18 Renekton runs right into your team and just cleans up house. Lil Fizzy, you know, you speak about how Orange just has to survive lanes. Well, Lil Fizzy, you don't necessarily have to get kills to be an impact on the Renekton, was proxying waves, got his bounty with farm and turret plates, and he's cashed in so far, 3.5 items deep, and this is why the Croc is so high prio in the meta.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, falling off a little bit at Worlds, but if you feel confident in your ability to pilot it, it can pay off big time, as this fight looks a little bit shaky for Travelers to start things off, but they know they got the Renekton coming, and that means Stro is willing to sacrifice it all to set up a good fight for him. Fizzy dives into the back. He's got the backup of his AD carry coming on soon, but he proves that he doesn't even need him. He's just going to dive all the way through on his own, through the root, through everything, and cleans up the bot lane.
And once again, the CC chain is, oh boy, Pierce Blade. Oh, the interrupt on the Grand Entrance. Pierce Blade doesn't have flash, has to wait on that cooldown. Another stun, slice and dice. Pierce Blade can't get to the wall in time and will fall. Barco Duck did just flash, so a bit of an errant flash, but still a pick as Baron respawns.
Yeah, we'll count it. We'll count it. We'll pretend that Barco Duck needed a flash to secure that kill. And Travelers are going to start up that Baron, at least trying to bait a fight. They see Starry on the bottom. They know he's going to have to TP in. They have vision of Lexus, crucially, and that means there is no risk of a steal. Travelers will secure themselves their second Baron buff of the game.
Oh, but Burger King, is he the victim once more? Lexus has the blast cone to cut off some distance. Lexus looking to get a stun on the wall here. Does get it. Serrano set up so well, and Burger King, oh! The BM flash, he was good as dead, and he still commits the flash. Starry, though, now caught in that blue side jungle, will fall. So Burger King's death, not for nothing.
I smell an LDR in Barco Duck's pocket. That was a very quick kill on the Starry. Lil Fizzy helping out with the Black Cleaver as well, and that's their main tank down. Nexus is going to be up next. They are melting through these guys way too quickly. A big Cataclysm from the Stro. He'll get stunned back out, but it's going to be 2 more kills going over to Barco Duck. Shredman trying to equalize on the other side as he takes down the mid lane inhibitor, but long death timers for the death cards. This is going to cost them multiple structures. This is going to cost them the dragon. It will be an inhibitor traded, but they are going to lose one of their own, no doubt.
Yep. Knock it down the bottom lane. How far are they willing to press it? Well, Fizzy still has everything available. Flash, Dominus, you name it. This Renekton's got it. Death timer's still long. They're teleporting in. They're going for it all to end it right here, Gordo.
Still 10 seconds on Zoronos and Lexus. Pop Blossom across the team, but no follow-up available. Here comes that call of the Forge God. It just gets shrugged away. Shredman is shredded. Starry forced back into the base. And this is going to be it for game number 1. The Travelers, they were on the back foot for a while. It looked like the Death Cards were going to end their losing streak to this team. But Travelers say not today, although they will be pushed back out here. Burger King goes down once again, and the Death Cards have a little bit of space to play with. If they can clean up a couple of members, they might have a chance at running into the base themselves.
Well, they're not going to stop Barco Duck. He gets back. Now they've got Stro, but there's no damage here. They got to get Zoronos into position. He's all their damage. Stro just waiting on more flag and drags. Ooh, gets through it. Lexus can't get the interrupt. And the Stro will limp away. So Burger King continues to serve the sacrificial lamb role. But he'll take it if his team is this close to winning game 1.
Indeed he will. And now with no Nexus turrets, going to have a hell of a defense ahead of them for the Death Cards, especially if they end up with any wards in and around their base. Fizzy has the teleport available, and Fizzy is so tough to take down in his current state. They can just play this out normally for the Travelers. They got themselves a massive lead. They'll have the soul on the plate in just about 3 minutes. Just looking for one more opportunity to close things out.
And it's the story all along for STC is, oh boy, we're going to find the mid lane. Do they finally have a pick with the Pop Blossom? They do! There's a good move for the STC. I was about to say how they just haven't lined up Rakan and Nico together to grab a pick, but they don't get a big-time target. It's just a Stro, and yeah.
Looks like they're looking to play it out more standard than that. Recall's getting interrupted. Burger King stopped too. They can go for the base. It's only Starry. Burger King is going to drop, but who's going to stop this duo from taking your Nexus? It's certainly not going to be Starry. The Travelers end game number 1 in an instant.
Love that aggressive call. Burger King, he got caught so many times this game, mispositioning, stepping too far up, and what a little bit of a mini redemption story at the end there. He overextends per usual, but it doesn't matter because he stuns all the recalls away from Zoronos, Pierce Blade, and dies a valiant death to secure the game there. And, you know, I'm going to go to the point I was talking about, Gordo, but when we were going to look at that replay, you draft the Rakan with the Nico, you know, with this Poppy and the Xayah. It never felt like they really ever lined up all those ultimates together unless it was just to pick off like one member alone. And later in the game, that wasn't enough to get them back into it.
Yeah, no, the skirmishes just did not go their favor. The Travelers making great use of that Renekton from Lil Fizzy, really able to pop off in some of those fights, able to get them into tight corridors or isolated in fights and being able to take down 1 or 2 or 3 on his own, making a difference in each and every fight. The Travelers now 5-0 this season up against the Death Cards, who are looking much better in the early game. You can see they even had a little gold lead there for a tiny bit of time. Not going to be enough to be able to take down the Travelers.
But Gordo, remember when I told you I wanted to see the gold graph from that one like minute 30 window where Barco Duck got a pick in the bot side. They knocked down first turret with plates up, and they got a double to Burger King in the top side. You can see exactly where it happened. Right there. Like about 13-ish minutes, 14 minutes. The little gold lead you're talking about then just turns immediately into a 3K gold lead for the Travelers. In a squad that is this conditioned against the Death Cards, this undefeated against the Death Cards. You can see it got slippery, but they never lost the lead like they haven't all season long.
Definitely. And now I don't know if it's back to the drawing board, Slayer, but I do think the Death Cards have got to find themselves some kind of draft in game number 2 where they can really emphasize this bottom lane and where Lexus can have a little bit more influence. It was tough for him to get involved on the Poppy, which is strange because it feels like that pick is often so powerful in the early game. You look towards Games at Worlds and stuff like that, and they're really able to just make tons and tons of plays, blowing the flash early. I think the Hex Flash is a big part of that. Opted away for Lexus this time, and really just did not end up coming away with many big ganks for the Death Cards to end up with them being able to secure themselves a lead really anywhere on the map. So you can see this final play once again.
Yeah, you know, you talk about getting the bot side going, the tough part for me is, Gordo, Zoranos was nearly 4 items. Like, this Xayah was 5-0-1 at one point. And it just felt like when the fights came along, Zoranos, you know, he got caught that one time with a great scout of the week up near the Baron pit. That was the fight that really exploded the lead. And in every other fight, it felt like we didn't have that Xayah moment. I mean, how many times this year have you seen a multitude of marksman players like they have that Xayah moment? It just never really came. We never really saw a ton.
Got
out
it
of
in like
Zoranos
10 minutes.
fights. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just too little, too late, or too early. Too early. Too much too early.
Yep.
If you want to call it that, is yeah, just not really able to come away with it, not having that big pop-off moment, as you said, not really able to get the front-to-back team fights that they would have drafted this composition to find, as you said, never finding those Nico engage angles. And that ends up with a game number 1 win going over to the Travelers. Now, we do have a full best of 5 tonight, so there's going to be plenty more chances for the Death Cards to strike back. We're going to throw it to a quick break while we get into draft for game number 2, but we're going to be back before too long, so do not go anywhere.